I am happy, you are happy. Let us be happy together, whether the weather is cloudy or sunny. I will always be your funny honey bunny. I am lucky, you are lucky. Let us get lucky together, whether the weather is cloudy or breezy. I'll be there to say, hey, come on, let's take it easy. 'Cause isn't it nice to have the friends that you do? And isn't it nice that the sky is so blue? And isn't it nice to say I love you, chugga chugga choo choo, woo woo. I am smiling, you are smiling. Let us smile together, whether the weather is cloudy or stormy. I will still be there in the morning. I'll be right by your side in the morning. I'll make you breakfast in the morning. I hope that you like cereal.
Yay! Now, there's a lot going on in the world, all right? And a lot of it can make people very, very nervous. What, right as we're coming out of this craziness that we've all been through, are we going to get into a war over Ukraine, right? That's the other thing. Like Russia,
Right.
like the first U.S. shipment of lethal aid to Ukraine arrived today because, we cleared that point because we've been in negotiations with them. There's been non-starters back and forth, as far as what they want. They want a whole, they want NATO to write a big letter how they're not going to ever admit Ukraine and NATO's like, that's up to Ukraine, dude. If they want to join because they're worried about you, that's up to them. And you keep doing stuff that would make them worried about you. So why wouldn't they? If you're, honest to God, if you're Ukraine, does Russia massing troops on your border make you more likely to want to join NATO or less? Of course, more. Because the NATO alliance is based on if you attack one, you attack all. And so the only way you can guarantee support from all the other countries where literally their militaries have to join in the fight to protect you, not just give you stuff, but actually be there, is to be a part of NATO. And if Russia isn't massing troops and if you're dealing with them about gas and pipelines and stuff, what do you care? But if they're stacking tanks and anti-aircraft and mortars and all kinds of missiles at your border, of course you do. Of course you want France and Germany and Lithuania and Sweden to all kind of want to join in, right? Lithuania is not part of NATO, I don't think, at this point, but they want to be. So yes, that is, here we are. We're going to stop one thing and start another, and yada yada. Well, there's not going to be U.S. troops in Ukraine. Just like that notion. That's not happening. No one expects that to happen. I don't know why. Like Tucker keeps bringing it up. So does Sean Hannity. I think it's a way to scare Americans away from the idea of being in there. Like we're going to send troops into Ukraine. We're not. This is not Bosnia Herzegovina. It's not an internal. Genocide that's going on in that country and a civil war that we act as peacekeepers with UN troops or any of that other stuff. Thank you, Lauren Ipsum. But it's a scary notion nonetheless, and it's certainly the last time this kind of thing happened was during the end of the Obama-Biden administration, and this was a constant issue during the Ukrainian relationship and dealing with the sketchiness of Russia trying to undermine Ukraine from the inside with puppets, and then when that didn't work, ultimately slicing off a section of the country. And the idea is that just incrementally taking pieces in more and more of the country, or just doing a full-on invasion. Now, 100,000 troops invading a country of 40 million people is not going to.
I like my chances.
Yeah, it's not going to go smoothly in that regard. And Putin has a lot to lose if they do this. In the same way that China has a lot to lose going into Taiwan. As much as people think it's like, Hong Kong. Hong Kong is physically attached to the country, was handed over by the British after the 99-year lease was up to the mainland. They've had some, social differences, but they're effectively already part of the unification. The unification was already started in the 90s. This is just lagging, as far as Hong Kong. And let it be known, by the way, that I support Hong Kong democracy and democracy for the entirety of China, for the record. The CCP, China as a country, as we know it under the CCP, is going to come to an end in the next 3 years. In the same way the Soviet Union broke up. The difference is that there is no, version of a former CCP intelligence guy running the place like Putin running Russia. There's no lineup. The Shanghai faction, which is against Xi Jinping in China, that is the the group that would benefit from the fall of the CCP, will want to run it more like Hong Kong used to be run as a democracy, moving in a more freedom and liberal direction, which would decimate everybody involved in the CCP's control point in all the provinces. So it's it's as bad for them as the break off of Kazakhstan and Ukraine and Belarus and all those things. So that's going to happen. It's going to happen over the next few years. And that timeline might have taken 5 years or even 10 years, but it was sped up by COVID. COVID sucked about 5 years out of that fall. Meanwhile, what have you been hearing about the United States? Now, granted, horrible gas prices in Russia, horrible inflation in Russia. Horrible gas prices in China, horrible inflation in China. But if you watch Fox News, they've got powerful, strong leaders. And the reason we have a little bit of inflation comparatively and a little bit of higher gas prices, because they're paying $7 a liter in Russia. And meanwhile, we're at $4 a gallon in the United States. And they make a lot of the oil and present it to Europe. They're more oil rich than we are. It's their only export of note. Supposedly we have weak and feckless leadership, according to Tom Cotton and everyone at Fox News. So America's doomed. Well, according to U.S. News and World Report, while slowing, the economy is expected to maintain a healthy growth in 2022. And by the way, slowing means it isn't actually slowing. It's normalizing, because we were in a giant hole. We climbed out of the hole, and compared to the bottom of the hole to normal ground, that's a big percentage in height. But we're just back to normal, essentially. So it'll look like it's slowing because you're standing on level ground again. You're no longer in a hole. A forward-looking gauge of the economy's health rose 0.8% in December. The Conference Board reported on Friday. The organization's leading economic index now stands at 120.8, following a 0.7 increase in November. The move is consistent with many reports that foresee steady, if slower, growth ahead for the economy. The U.S. LEI ended 2021 on a rising trajectory, suggesting the economy will continue to expand well into the spring. It said Atama Oziyildirim, Senior Director of the Economic Research at the Conference Board. For the first quarter, headwinds from Omicron variant, labor shortages, and inflationary pressures, as well as the Federal Reserve's expected interest rate hikes, may moderate economic growth. The Conference Board forecast GDP growth for quarter 1 2022 to slow to a relative healthy 2.2% annualized. Still, for all of 2022, we forecast the U.S. economy will expand by a robust 3.5%, well above the pre-pandemic trend growth. Let me say that again. Who was president just pre-pandemic? And what were you told about economic growth that entire time? Best it's ever been. Nobody could possibly do it. Never mind the fact that Trump doesn't do any of that work. It's the American worker and the American inventor and the American, I guess corporations and employees and everybody who's doing their job and trying to work harder and more efficiently and do better because they like what they're doing and they want it to be better, and they also want to spend more time with their family, so they want to be more efficient with their work so they can get it done quicker, so they can go home. So we can Tim Ferriss our work week, right? The 4 day, right?
Right.
But that was the standout thing for me in this U.S. News and World Report. 3.5%, well above pre-pandemic trend growth. Between the rescue package that Biden put in place and the salvaging of a lot of people's bottom line through the introduction of another stimulus, and then this infrastructure bill, that is a genuine rising tide. This speaks to the economic ideas of the Biden administration, which is expand from the middle out. It's not trickle down. It can't be bottom up because that doesn't define any economy. but the expansion of the middle class, because the middle class is the most generous, the most productive, and the most conscientious of all the economic zones. If you're scrambling for cash, you can't. If you're rich, you don't give a crap. But in the middle, that's why America is the most charitable nation in the world, and it'll continue to be so as we go forward. Thanks so much for tuning in. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Smile into it, kids, and stay healthy, because we're coming out of this. See you next week.